Alright, welcome back everyone. Today we're diving into one of the nastiest traps you'll ever see in the bishop's opening. This is called the Kieseritzky Gambit. We start the game with pawn to e4, controlling the center and opening up our bishop and queen. Opponent answers with pawn to e5, classic response. Now instead of going for the usual knight first, we play bishop to c4. This is the bishop's opening. Right away we're eyeing that weak f7 square near opponent's king. Opponent plays knight to f6, attacking our pawn on e4. This is where the fun begins. We play knight to f3, gambiting our pawn. But opponent gets greedy. They go for knight takes pawn on e4. They're thinking free pawn, but they're walking into the Kieseritzky Gambit. We play knight to c3. This is classic gambit play. Fast development, open lines, forget the pawn. Opponent says fine and plays knight takes knight on c3. We continue with pawn takes knight on c3, opening the d-file for our queen and freeing our dark-squared bishop. Our position is alive now, and here most responses by black are actually just blunders. Opponent develops with knight to c6, adding some central pressure, but too little too late. Now comes a sneaky one, knight to g5. We're immediately threatening tricks towards f7 again, pressure is building. Opponent tries to kick us out with pawn to d5, attacking our bishop. Normal looking, but we're not backing down. We snap it off, bishop takes pawn on d5, keeping the tension high. Our opponent plays bishop to e6, attacking our bishop, but we're not trading like normal people. We go knight takes bishop on e6. Opponent has to recapture, pawn takes knight on e6. Now their king is exposed and their pawn structure is ruined. Time to go hunting, queen to h5 check, immediate pressure. Where's opponent going? They can't block with the pawn, so they play king to d7, stepping out of check. Now we pile on queen to f7 check, forcing moves only. Opponent blocks with queen to e7, only move. And now, boom, bishop takes pawn on e6 check, ripping the board open. Opponent tries to escape with king to d8, but too late. We finish it off with bishop to g5, and if our opponent doesn't want to lose their queen and takes the bishop on g5, the game is over after queen to d7 checkmate. So after our sneaky knight to g5, opponent doesn't defend passively. Instead, they play queen to f6, attacking our knight and eyeing our weak spots. But we're not here to play nice, time to punish. We go bishop takes on f7 with check. Opponent's king is forced to step up to d8, walking into the open. Next, we jump in with knight to e6 check. This knight is just dancing around the board, causing chaos. Opponent has no choice but to go king to e7. The king's getting dragged all over the place already. Now keeping the pressure high, bishop to g5, pinning their queen to the king. The heat is on. Opponent figures, I've had enough of this pin, and plays king takes bishop on f7, grabbing material but stepping deeper into trouble. We don't slow down. Bishop takes the queen on f6, clearing the board and wrecking their kingside even more and winning material. Opponent plays pawn takes knight on e6, but look at their kings stuck in the center, wide open, no coordination, disaster incoming. And now, we simply retreat to bishop to g5, keeping our dark-squared bishop active and eyeing weaknesses like c7 and f6. At this point, the position is a total mess for opponent. Their king's stuck, their development is non-existent, and we're ready to bring in the queen and both rooks for a full-on assault. So after the usual opening moves, opponent plays pawn to d6, trying to reinforce their center and avoid the immediate traps. This looks more careful, but don't let that fool you. Let's show them why that doesn't save them. We continue with our aggressive plan. Knight to g5, jumping in, already threatening trouble on f7 like always. Opponent tries to develop with bishop to e6, covering f7 and attacking our knight. But we're not here to retreat. We go bishop takes bishop on e6, trade pieces, sure, but only on our terms. Opponent plays pawn takes bishop on e6, doubling their pawns and opening their king's defenses. Step by step, their position is getting uglier. Now we bring out queen to f3, adding pressure right away. Already eyeing that weak diagonal and threatening ideas like queen takes b7. Opponent decides to trade queens with queen to f6, offering a queen swap. But we're not interested in ending the attack, so we play queen takes pawn on b7, forget queen trades. Let's take material and keep their king stuck in the center. Opponent tries to develop with bishop to e7, but we stay calm and just drop back with queen to c8 check, keeping the king boxed in and forcing awkward moves. Opponent blocks with bishop to d8, only move. Now we play the crusher, knight takes pawn on e6, making life miserable for opponent. They try to attack our queen with knight to d7. We follow up with knight takes c7 with check, picking up more material, kicking the king around. Opponent has no good squares, and after king to e7 we continue with queen takes rook on a8. At this point we're up massive material, their king is stranded, and we're ready to bring our other pieces into the attack. When opponent tries to play super bold with pawn to d5, hitting back at the center early and trying to chase our pieces off. So after grabbing on c3, opponent plays pawn to d5, kicking our bishop and claiming the center. This looks aggressive, but it's just setting themselves up for disaster. We don't back down, we go bishop takes pawn on d5. Opponent responds with pawn to c6, attacking our bishop again. They're really chasing our pieces around now, but they're forgetting one thing, king safety. We hit back immediately with bishop takes pawn on f7 with check. Another classic Kieseritzky punch. Opponent has no choice but to step forward with king to e7. Already the king is walking into no man's land. We keep up the pressure, bishop to g5 check, simple, direct forcing. Opponent feels brave and plays king takes bishop on f7, taking material but exposing themselves even more. We don't hesitate, knight to e5 check. Our knight jumps in, dragging the king further out or forcing awkward blocks. Opponent goes for king to g8, trying to hide, but it's way too late. Now comes the big one, queen takes on d8, full queen trade on our terms. And with this, we're up massive material, opponent's king is exposed, their position is shattered, and we're cruising towards victory. So after the usual opening, opponent plays bishop to d6, trying to defend their center and get ready to castle. We answer with knight to g5, turning up the heat and putting immediate pressure on f7. Opponent decides to castle with short castle, thinking king safety, but safety is already long gone. We play queen to h5, lining up a nasty attack on h7 and f7. Opponent panics and pushes pawn to h6, trying to kick our knight, but we're not leaving. We go knight takes pawn on f7, blowing the position wide open. They take back with rook takes knight on f7, and we continue with bishop takes on f7 with check. Relentless. Opponent plays king to f8, but there's no safe square anymore. We slide back with bishop to d5, setting up more threats and keeping their king boxed in. Opponent tries to develop and plays queen to f6, but too late. We continue with bishop to g5, attacking their queen. They can't handle the pressure. They capture with pawn takes bishop on g5, but now, queen to h8 check, dragging their king further into the storm. Opponent runs with king to e7, but we just gobble material with queen takes on c8, grabbing more points and keeping the attack alive. Opponent plays pawn to c6, trying to develop and create air, but it's hopeless. We continue with queen takes on b7 with check, grabbing another pawn and eyeing their rook and weaknesses. They try knight to d7, but we're already in too deep with bishop takes on c6, keeping material pressure high. Opponent plays rook to d8, trying to hold on to their pieces. And we finish with long castle, bringing our rook into the d-file and preparing to swing everything at their king. Game over in a few moves from here. If you want to win games like this even faster, check out my 50 Deadly Chess Traps PGN pack. It's packed with traps just like this one to help you crush your opponents straight out of the opening. Thanks for watching, hit like, drop a comment, and I'll see you in the next video.